It's summer blockbuster time, so let's check out Humans Being by Van Halen off of the Twister soundtrack, which is a really dope riff that I hardly see anybody ever play right. Check it out. Hey there campers, and welcome to a brand new installment of Week in Wankshop. Here's your best buddy, Uncle Ben. So I loved Twister whenever it came out about 1,000,000 years ago, and my brother and I went out and got the soundtrack on CD, and we would listen to Humans Being by Van Halen on repeat like constantly, mainly because it was one of like 3 good songs on that soundtrack. And whenever we started playing guitar, that was one of the tunes that we both really wanted to learn how to play, but of course we couldn't find any good tabs for it. And here we are years later, and I went online and I checked it out, and it doesn't seem like there's any really accurate tabs or lessons on how to play this thing floating around online. So I thought I would do my part and give you guys a complete lesson on how to play the intro of this iconic tune correctly. And as always, you guys can find a full tab for this week's lesson on my Instagram page, so be sure to find me over at Ben Eller Guitars and give me a follow. Find the tab for this week's lesson, then upload a video of yourself shredding through it along with the hashtag WeekendWankshop. So having the right tone for the job is really important for making this riff sound right, so I've tried my best to approximate what Eddie had going on using my old Kemper profiler right here. I'm not sure what Eddie was using on the original recording, but the tone is freaking awesome. I love it. I'm using a JCM800 profile on the Kemper, and I've got some delay running through Logic right here. And it's really important that the level is pretty high, but it doesn't have a ton of repeats. And it's really essential to get the 8th note delay on there. 1 and 2, like that. You gotta have that to make this riff sound right, so be sure to dial in your delay appropriately. I've also got a little bit of a micro pitch, like detune thing going on here on the Kemper, which is just adding that slightly chorusy detune effect. I'm not sure if on the original if Eddie was using some kind of a chorus or like a micro pitch kind of thing too. I'm not really sure, but you'll just notice when you play along with the original that it's really hard to get your guitar in tune with it, and that's because it's got this detune thing going on top of it, so be sure to set that up that way. I'm using the split neck pickup here on this Suhr. It sounds like Eddie might have been using like the middle position, you know, just both humbuckers on. It's hard to say, but this sounded pretty good on this guitar, so that's what I'm using right now. And I'm also tuned down a half step: E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, E flat. So in typical Eddie fashion, this is played extremely loosely with a lot of little variations here and there all throughout the riff. It's not like imperative that you follow all of them, but because I am just obsessive about this kind of thing, I try to make it as accurate as I possibly could. So that's what I'll be showing you guys. But you know, it's the kind of thing where if you're in the right chord shape and you do the picking a little bit differently, it's not really the end of the world if you do it a little bit different than what's, you know, in this lesson. So what we're going to do to start with here is an E minor chord. And this is just me using the 2nd fret A string, the 2nd fret D string, throwing the Spider-Man chord. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to strum through that kind of slowly. And it sounds like he only really reaches the B string. Like that. He doesn't go all the way through to the high E the first time. So just from the low E to the B string. Next we're going to enter into this. This is an E shape, like an E major kind of shape. And it's a G chord. What I've got here is the 5 on the A, the 5 on the D, and the 4 on the G. So it's nice because if you're in this position for the E minor, you just hop up here and add in your first finger on the G string. I'm just strumming those 3. I'm not strumming the opens or anything like that, just those 3 strings. And then what we're going to do is to move that shape up a whole step to 7, 7, and 6. So this is an A chord now. After this, hit 2 lightly palm muted low E strings open. So now you have this. I usually see people putting in a lot of extra low E's, like that, like a bunch of open E strings. Those aren't there. I think sometimes people confuse the sound of the repeats of the delay, you know, with additional strikes of the pick, but they're not there. So now that you have this, play the exact same thing, only this time it sounds like it goes all the way through all 6 strings. Your G, your A, And then you're gonna go to the E minor chord again, your G, your A, and this time is where he goes into this little ending fill, which is based around a C and a D chord. Take like a D, what would that be? With an added 11, D major with an 11 in there. But anyway, what you're gonna do here is have your hand kind of in the basic C major shape, right? So I've got, my 3rd fret A string, my 2nd fret D, open G, and 1st B, garden variety C chord. And what you're gonna do to start with is to play the A string open, actually. So don't have that finger held down. You're gonna hit the open A and hammer into the 3rd fret. Then you're gonna hit your D, then your G. And then what you're gonna do is to hit that A string on 3 again, really lightly, and slide the whole chord shape up. So I've ended up here at 5, 4, and 3. It's just like your C chord shape, just stepped up. So you've done this. So here I slid the A up a little bit. It's very faint on the recording, but it's there. And then hit E, B, G, and D strings. So that fill is... So now you have the entire first rotation of the riff. The next rotation of the riff is pretty much the same, only the ending is a little different. So you're gonna have your E minor, your G, A, your 2 chugs, E minor, G, A, 2 chugs, E minor, G, A, and this time the picking is a little different. So you're gonna do your hammer into the C chord again here. So I'm gonna hammer, I'm gonna go from open A to hammering in that 3rd A, my D string, my B string. Again, before you went A, D, G, this time you're gonna go D, B. Then you're gonna go back to that 3rd fret A string, slide it up a whole step, and keep your chord shape just like you did before. Then you're gonna go E, B, G, D. So again, it's a little different than the first time. Play it again there. Again, I doubt it's intentional that he was like, well, the first time I hit the G string, but the second time I hit the B string. I doubt it's that kind of thing. It's all based around C and D, and anything goes. And if you watch him play this live, of course, he plays it completely differently every time. There's not a lot of live footage of this, but I've even seen some where instead of playing E minor this way, he plays it this way, which is like 7A, 5D, 4G. So you can never tell with Eddie. He just kind of changes stuff up on a whim. So now you got the first 2 sections. Something like that. Now the 3rd section right here is where it starts getting a little bit different, a little bit more aggressive, and he changes up one of the E chords. Sounds like this. Spanish ending, okay? So what you're gonna do is your E minor, your G, your A, 2 chugs, and this time you're gonna do an E power chord. This is my open low E, my 7 on the A, my 9 on the D. It's hitting those 3 strings. An open low E string chug, your G, an open low E string chug again, your A, and then 2 chugs. So that section sounds like this. Again, a little bit more aggressive, bringing more of those E's into there. And then this last part, you're gonna hit your E minor, a chug, a G, and then this move right here. Now this is one that I see people play all kinds of different ways. Something like that I see all the time. But essentially what he's doing is taking that E shape that he's been using the whole time, like how you did your G and your A, and you gotta move it down here to the 3rd position. So I've got my 3rd fret A, 3rd fret D, and 2nd fret G string. It's like an F with a sharp 11, F major 7, sharp 11, I should say. It's an expensive chord. And what you're gonna do right here is to play your A string through your high E string, right? So that includes my open B and E strings. And then with an up strum, what you're gonna do here is to take your first finger off the chord. So now I've just got my third A and third D held down. Do an up strum. And then on your down strum, add that first finger back into the chord on your fret 2 G. So the whole thing sounds like this. So if you're tracking the first finger, it's on, off, on. And that's it. And so that third section, basically the more aggressive one, should sound like this in total. And you get your big pick slide out. And that's basically it. So you've got your first section. Second section. B string ending here. Power chord. And that's it. And you know, just for good measure, let's point out one more thing about the riff that comes up after that, which is kind of a heavier variation on what you played in the intro. It's an E power chord, again with the open low E string, so open E, 7, A, 9, D. Chugging on that low E. Just a 2-string bar here at fret number 5. 5 A, 5 D. Little double stop. Chug on the E. Double stop on 7, 7 A, 7 D. Then 2 chugs. That's how you're playing that riff. I see people do this a lot, but it doesn't have those big bass notes there in the bottom, so just thought I'd point that out. So there you go, guys, a 6 summer blockbuster to raise the heat index in your neighborhood. Be sure to pay really close attention to Eddie's use of dynamics as he plays through that. He's a super dynamic player, and you know, you can really hear where he's leaning into some parts a little bit harder for some extra impact, laying back on others. There's a lot of really subtle stuff going on in that riff, like with some of those slides and stuff we were talking about. So be sure to try to capture all that in your own rendition of this classic riff. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Hit the little bell thing down there so you get notifications when I post new videos every week. You guys can also follow me on Instagram at Ben Eller Guitars, or over on Facebook at facebook.com/Uncle Ben Eller. And if you're interested in booking some one-on-one Skype lessons, be sure to drop me an email, benellerguitars@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching. Now get away from this doggone computer and go play some guitar. Less clicking, more picking.